Donald Trump has been abundantly clear. He is out to change the post-World War II global order. Shaken are the predictable and reliable alliances of the past 80 years, replaced by an effort to establish what you can call a hemispheric zone of interest. Put simply, a revolution, both in the way that we do things overseas and back here at home. Joining us now, senior editor for The Atlantic, David Frum, and professor of government at Harvard University and senior fellow for democracy at the Council on Foreign Relations, Stephen Levitsky. We're going to have a two-track conversation here. One is the overseas changes, and the other one is the changes here at home. So, David, I'm going to begin with you. Watching what we saw on Friday, that Oval Office meeting between President Trump and Zelensky, you argue that it was a good thing for us to see it, that it finally revealed the truth. Explain.
Well, this is how the conversation abroad does overlap with the conversation at home. There's been a lot of effort to look at the two signature policies of Donald Trump, one of which is forcing Ukraine into Russia's hands, the other of which is global tariffs, and say, these ideas sound crazy. In fact, they sound stupid. In fact, they sound self-harming. But there must be some secret master plan behind it. It must not be what it seems. The tariffs are maybe a negotiating ploy. And maybe Trump has some secret deal in mind with Ukraine that will be good for Ukraine and good for democracy in Europe. What the meeting in the White House showed was that Trump is driven by intense personal hostility to Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. His vice president is even more malignant. And that there is nothing that can satisfy them. They have no plan. Their only plan is abandon Ukraine because they hate Zelensky, hate Ukraine, love Russia, and resent our European allies.
What about this argument that we're seeing a revolution? And we can talk about the domestic stuff in a second, but the revolution overseas and the way that the global order has stood for the past 8 years. This idea that Donald Trump is out for a hemisphere zone of interest.
Then why is he alienating all of America's allies in this hemisphere?
Maybe he wants to dominate it.
Well, let me give you a very concrete example. He started, and it's now over, a trade war with Colombia. It's not a country a lot of people think very much about. But Colombia was, a lot of Americans do, Colombians obviously do. Colombia was entangled in civil war in the 1990s. Presidents Clinton, W. Bush, and Obama led a process to bring peace, signed a free trade agreement with Colombia, and turned Colombia into a close ally of the United States. And through all of that period, Colombians elected and re-elected politicians from the pro-American center-right. Recently, they've elected a politician from the anti-American center, and Trump just made him a nationalist hero. He strengthened everyone in Colombia who doesn't like the United States and weakened everyone who does. He's doing the same thing in Mexico. He's destroying pro-American sentiment in Mexico, emboldening American nationalism, anti-American nationalism. I'm from Canada. I can tell you, I've never seen it. Canadians are like the most positive about the United States. Everyone travels back and forth, the same language, at least in English Canada. There's now anti-American nationalism rising in Canada. This is not a hemispheric plan. And it's not a revolution. If a revolution means that you have some idea, it's just an impulse of destruction. And it's going to be obviously very painful for America's friends in the world, but it's also making America weaker and more isolated and more authoritarian at home.
Could you argue it's a revolution here at home? Stephen, you've been studying competitive authoritarianism for decades now, not something that you probably thought could come to the United States, but it looks like it's on our doorstep. Would you call it a revolution?
No, I wouldn't call it a revolution. First of all, it's not that radical. It is. It's going to be a painful, difficult process in which a lot of people are going to get hurt, and our institutions are going to be badly weakened. But it's not so radical that I would call it a revolution. And also, really importantly, it's not irreversible. This is a decline that can be reversed and that Americans really need to work to reverse. The biggest, or one of the biggest problems of the last couple of months has been how limited our society's reaction to this abuse of power has been. But no, I wouldn't call it a revolution.
But you do account for the unaccountable, and that is Elon Musk, something that we have not seen before. How does Elon Musk fold into this?
Well, I've never seen in a democracy a concentration of economic, media, and political power, and even military power, given his our dependence on his companies for our geopolitical policy. But so I've never seen anything like this in terms of concentration of power in a democracy. But no, this is one move that's not in the authoritarian playbook that I didn't that I think we're still running to catch up to. I'm not sure that Trump and Musk know that the next. I don't know how many plays ahead they're looking, but I consider this in the short term the greatest threat to democracy and the rule of law is the role of Musk in the government.
Yeah, and the technological aspect of it, which is so hard to figure out. Let me ask you about what you mentioned a moment ago, which is that there has been so little concerted pushback. And part of what enables these regimes to exist and to further themselves is the way that they threaten competitors, threaten detractors, threaten big media companies, threaten big donors for other parties, make it so that talented individuals don't want to run for office. We're going to watch tonight it's not a State of the Union, it's a joint address to Congress. Democrats have a chance to be in that room in unison, to do something, to show the country where they stand. Are you expecting anything from them?
I don't know. It's the Democrats suffered a difficult defeat in the last election. It was only a few months ago. Democrats are a heterogeneous, sometimes slow-moving party. It's going to take them a little while as an electoral vehicle to sort of get it together. Losing parties often go through a difficult time. That's pretty par for the course. But the United States, our civil society, the actors who can and should be defending democracy extend way beyond the Democratic Party. It should include churches. It should include universities. It should include business leaders. A whole range. It should include Republican politicians, quite frankly. And obviously media figures. And so we shouldn't look, at least not exclusively, to the Democratic Party, because this is not just electoral opposition. This is a defense of the rule of law, of the Constitution, and of our democracy. And all of the good news is the United States has a lot of resources. We have a really strong opposition, much stronger than Russia, stronger than Venezuela, than Hungary, than Turkey. We have much greater raw materials to work with in terms of building and sustaining an opposition to Trump. But so far, we've underutilized those resources. Everybody is sort of laying low, kind of defending their own turf and worried about what can happen to them and not speaking out. And that, I think, is dangerous.
David, I'll give that same question to you.
Look, the question of what should the Democrats do is obviously an important question for Democrats. But there is this dangerous line of conversation we get into, which is the country, it looks like the government is about to shut down. Now, the Republicans have majorities in both House and Senate. So if they shut it, why don't they just pass a funding bill? And why are they complaining that the Democrats won't help them? And the answer is, well, everyone knows the Republican caucus includes half a dozen lunatics who won't vote for anything. So if the country's to be governed, obviously the Democrats have to bail the Republicans out. And that means accepting that this trade war with the world. That means accepting the sellout of Ukraine. That means accepting that Russia runs our foreign policy and a billionaire runs our domestic policy. But the Democrats have to step up and be grown-ups. And look, the Democrats need a plan, but it does change the subject a little bit, say, why don't the people who have a majority in the House of Representatives fund the government? And why instead of asking, what is Vladimir Zelensky going to do so that Donald Trump doesn't put a pencil in his eye, ask, why is Donald Trump putting a pencil in the eye of this hero and his valiant nation?
David Frum, Stephen Levinsky, guys, I want to have you back to continue this conversation. I feel like we can only scratch the surface during this particular moment. Thank you, guys.